Wherever you go, ask for radio. Radio.
Yes.
Radio. When you're on the go and traveling, ask your host for a radio.
You want to know traffic, time, and news, talk, and entertaining music. When you're staying in a strange hotel, when you're far away from home and you feel so all alone, just ask the man for a radio. You want to know traffic, time, and news, talk, and entertaining music.
Radio.
When you're staying in a strange hotel, and then when you're far away from home and you feel all alone,
at a hotel, motel, tell 'em
I want a radio.
Wfmu-Tv is sponsored by Puffy, the cigarette for children who like smoking. Remember, kids, always get your parents' permission before smoking. Good evening, and welcome to a program which I'm told is called Wfmu-Tv, and I am Alan Watts, or as the Buddhist would say, I am a man named Alan Watts, but that is all I know, for I cannot assume to know what is in your consciousness at this present time. I'm told, and this is not my own particular reading on this, but I am told that I have a radio show on WFMU Radio, 91.1 FM in East Orange, New Jersey, and it can be heard every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Although now, I'm apparently hosting a TV show about a radio station. I do not think even the Gautama himself can understand this concept. So you know what I'm talking about. It's just like the policeman who pulled a man over by the side of the road, and he walked up to him and said, "Do you know how fast you were going?" And the driver said, "Do you know fast how go I can?"
Oh.
And so it's a little like that. Because the Buddhist does not deal in integers of your present life form. Mm-hmm. You walk amongst people, and yet you walk amongst yourselves, because you can't expand your consciousness that way. You understand? Anyway, on tonight's show, I'm told that we have Judy Dunaway and her ensemble, a program which I'm told is by a higher enlightened person named David Coma, who counsels young people on things that are consoling. Although the Buddhists would say, "I am not your employer, I am a wedgie driver." And it's a little like that in every form, because when you achieve your state of higher consciousness, you run into problems like bricks, like the bricklayers who put the cement down on the bricks. But do they know the bricks? And the bricks could not possibly presume to know their consciousness. So anyway, now let's go to the first video. This is a documentation of Judy Dunaway and her ensemble and her performance for balloons.
fire good, eat food, 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 fire good, axe, fire good, food, fire good, house, chair, beer, oysters good, slacks, salt, sugar good, meat, brand new car, cell phone, fire on the Game Boy, TV, food.
Well, that was a wonderful performance by Judy Dunaway. And I find that performance infinitely more satisfying than, say, a Bach concerto, although I like that too. But the reason I like this performance was that each player in that videotape that you just saw had a higher state of consciousness. I want to relate to you now a story of the Buddha. It seems that the Buddha was sitting under a tree lecturing some of his students. And he had been speaking for several hours about how he ate nothing but air because he was trying to achieve a higher state of consciousness. And he was trying to extinguish first himself and then ultimately reality. After several hours of this, a supercilious and brash student asked, "But if that is so, Gautama, why then are you so fat?" The Gautama cocked an eyebrow and paused for a minute. And then he glared at the student and said, "Look, arsehole, I have a gland problem." And so you see, sometimes the Buddha can be refreshingly lucid and honest.
Let's see.
But that is the Gautama's way. Sometimes he could meander on for days and not achieve a higher state of consciousness. And yet in one sentence, he could sum up what had been in his consciousness only days before. But this was on rare occasions, usually in the month of February, and only on days when alternate side of the street parking regulations were suspended. Because the Christian says, what about the pain of Jesus? And sandwiches are delicious with mayonnaise, but only on days. Sometimes he could. A Muslim, a Christian, and a Buddhist were trying to screw in a light bulb for the in thing. And so the Muslim says, "You try that anymore and you're going to get your pants dirty." But you see, it was an enlightened statement at the time. The Catholic frowns upon suicide. However, suicide is not a problem in Buddhism. And the reason is that if you live in a place like New Delhi or Bombay, suicide is an oxymoron. And so you don't have to worry about it. There are many shows on television where there is a real audience and a host, who's presumably not real, asks real people on stage real questions. One of the best examples of this genre was a person who had a higher state of enlightened consciousness, and his name was David Coma. So let's watch that video right now.
Hello, I'm Governor Dick Lamb of Colorado. Like many of you, I worry about today's youth, and as a parent myself, I have tried many methods to help my kids through those troubling times. Some of you may not agree with those methods, but isn't our goal really the same? A strong future led by the best and brightest of our youth today. My program of tough love has been adopted by many people, and one of them is Mr. David Coma.
That's right, Dick. You know, love isn't always loving. Sometimes love has got to be tough. In the next 30 minutes, I'm not going to be sweet on these kids. I'm going to give them the kind of love they need. Tough love. Most importantly, I've got to show them that there's always an alternative. There is always a way out.
There's always a way out of your problems.
There's always a way out from the shame. Just because you beat a different drum doesn't mean that you can't ignore the blame. No, doesn't mean that you can't ignore the blame.
Hi. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is David Coma. Let me tell you a little about myself. I spent 10 years on the police force of New York City as a narcotics agent. They put my life story into a television show. It was watched by absolutely no one, and it was subsequently canceled. They took bits of that and put it into another show I know you've all seen called Beretta. I just want to say my life is nothing like Beretta. I don't own a stupid parrot. I don't have a father figure hanging around. And I don't wear a stupid hat. But we're not here today to talk about that. We're here today to talk about you. I want to help you, and I want you to let me help you. Let me give you a little background. While I was on the police force as a narcotic agent, I used all the drugs that I confiscated for my own personal use. I was flying high. I was sky high. I was out of control. And then something happened. My 5-year-old son drowned in a freak wading pool accident. I had to make a choice. Only I could make that choice, and I made a choice. And I am here today to help you make a choice, to bring your life back in line. Now, I want you to be open to me, because I want to help you. I am being open with you. You know, I was reading a magazine today, and on the cover, it said, teenage sex and teenage pregnancy. Everybody's doing it, right? I know Masha here has a question that she'd like to ask about teenage sex. And I just want to say one thing. Remember, there are no stupid questions. The questions that we talk about here in this room will go nowhere, except, of course, to the camera and the audience at home. That's all. So remember, don't be ashamed. There are no stupid questions. Masha, I know you have a question you want to ask. Masha?
My boyfriend and I have been dating now for several months, and we've had sex 3 or 4 times now. And my question is, should we be using birth control?
Excuse me, everyone. Excuse me. We've had our first stupid question. Should you be using of course you should be using birth control. I suggest you be using a blocking device such as a diaphragm, and tell that stud boyfriend of yours that maybe he might want to be using a condom. Do you know what can happen if you're not using birth control? You could become pregnant. Then you're going to have to give birth, which at your age is extremely painful. Or you're going to have to go to a doctor and an abortion clinic, and he's going to have to stick a vacuum up you know where. Either way, no pretty alternatives. Now get out of my face, you moron. Just get out of here. Get out. Davey, Marcia, come here. Davey, can you get Marcia? Come on. Come on, honey. I'm not going to bite you. Come on back in here. Come on. Sit down. Come on. Come on. Come on. Thanks, Davey. Marcia, I want to tell you this, and you're not going to believe it, and I know the rest of you are not going to believe it either. But the reason I yelled at you that way, the reason I screamed at you that way, was because I love you, Masha. I love you. Now, I want you to know something, and I want everyone else here to know something, that the first thing that Masha's going to do when she leaves the studio tonight is go down to the pharmacy and get herself a pack of 4X's and some Semicide. Aren't you, Masha? Aren't you? That's right. All right. All right, come on. Come on. Applaud, everyone. That's great. Masha, I love you. I love you. I do. I love you. Okay. Now, I want to see if anyone here knows about the blues. How many of us get the blues? Come on, a show of hands. A show of hands. Come on. The blues. Blues. You get them. You know that sick, nauseating feeling in the gut of your stomach, that life is worthless and you're worthless. Come on. Show of hands. Who gets them? Who gets them? That's right. Now, I know Phil has a little story about the time he got the blues. Phil?
Yeah, like, it all started when I was cutting school, and I was in my bathroom weighing my stash, and my mom came home, and I had to hide the stash, and, like, I freaked out, and I flushed it down the toilet. And I'm like, oh, my God, I got nothing to get high on now. And then my mom leaves, but she takes the car, so I can't get anywhere. And I still don't have anything to get high on, so I go in the bathroom. And, like, my mom's hidden all the Valium, and all that's left is some extra-strength Pamprin and some Primatine Mist. So then I go to the refrigerator, and I try snorting some Freon, and that doesn't work. So I go back to the, to the Primatine Mist, and I boil off the menthol and snort that, and that wasn't bad. So then I go in my room, and I start listening to Ozzy, and I'm getting, like, real excited because I'm thinking about my friend Doug, who's going to Peaches to get me tickets to Ozzy's show. And then the phone rings, and it's Doug, and the show is sold out, and I can't go to see Ozzy, and, like, I thought I was going to lose it right there.
Ooh, he's upset because he couldn't get tickets to see some middle-aged, overweight man in a leotard jump around on stage. Phil, I would be rejoicing over that. Do you understand me? Rejoicing. Now, Phil, I want to show you that there is always a way out for scum like you. And Manu the Mime is going to show us. Manu, everyone, round of applause for Manu. Manu the Mime. Thank you, Manu. Thank you. Bye. You know, a lot of kids today are doing drugs. And I think it's because they can't find anything interesting to do otherwise. And tell me, do you do a lot of drugs in the area you're from?
Yeah, well, there's not really a lot of things to do in the subdivision that I live in, you know?
Yeah, well, I have some suggestions for you. One, clean up your room, because I'm sure it's a mess. And two, take a shower, because you're stinking up the studio. It smells like something died in here. Jesus. You know, I'm reading the newspaper. Crack everywhere. Kids doing crack. Their parents doing crack. How many here, now be honest, how many here have done crack? You. What's your name?
Rich.
Rich. How many times do you do crack? Now be honest.
2, 3, 30, 40, 50, maybe, I don't know.
Now, Rich, at that rate of consumption, you probably have to sell some of the stuff on the side. Am I right?
Yeah, I do.
First of all, tell me how you make the stuff, because a lot of us here don't know what the stuff actually is. How do you make it?
Yeah, well, you know, basically it's cocaine. You know, I get it from my supplier, and mix it with baking soda, and cook it in a test tube over an oven, and till it's rock hard to boil out some of the impurities, you know, and then I sell it.
You sell it to your classmates?
Yeah, that's usually the best outlet.
You know, Rich, it's scum like you that are turning our youth today into maggot brains. I want you to stay here after the show tonight, because I'm going to take you down to the police station and have you arrested. No, better yet, I'm going to do it right now. Mike Marizoni, kids, Mike Marizoni used to work with me on the force. You heard the evidence. Book this bum. Book him. Spread eagle, punk. Come on. Spread eagle. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you can say will be used against you. That's all the time we have for tonight, kids. First of all, will Manu the Mime come out here and take a very well-deserved bow? Manu the Mime, kids, come on, let's have a round of applause. Thank you, Manu, thank you. Listen, I just want to say one thing. The reason I am doing this program is because I love you. It is not the money that Dick Lamb is paying me. Believe me. It's because I love you. I love you. No other reason. Good night, and God bless. Good night, everyone.
Now you see, that man had an enlightened state of consciousness. And in doing so, he could instruct others. It reminds me of a story. I was with a friend, a Buddhist friend, who was about to have experimental rectal surgery.
Oh, that must be painful.
And the doctors told him that there was a chance that the operation might be successful. However, there was also a chance that he might have to wear a bag the rest of his life. And I asked him before the operation, "Aren't you afraid?" And he looked at me and he said, "My friend, I am more afraid that I will not be able to achieve a higher state of consciousness,
That's so deep.
and that I will not be able to extinguish reality and eventually myself. I fear that much more than the outcome of this operation." And I looked at him straight in the eye, and I said, "I have studied many religions and many cultures, pan-ethnic cultures, a student of philosophy, and particularly Buddhism. However, you, sir, are as mad as a bloody March hare." And so you see, I too can be refreshingly lucid at times and
Sure can.
honest.
That's funny.
I must end my program now.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.